Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into a really fascinating and maybe even a little radical way of looking at success and happiness. You know, we're always told to go out there and chase our dreams, but what if the chase itself is actually the problem?
I mean, have you ever had that feeling? You're doing everything you're supposed to do, you're working hard, you're climbing up, but there's this little voice in the back of your head going, is this it? Is this really where I want to go? That feeling is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So let's start with something we all know, that classic saying, the grass is always greener on the other side. It's this deep, almost automatic belief that real happiness is, well, it's over there, with someone else.
And this is the paradox, right? We look at other people, we see their highlight reels, these smiling masks, and we think, wow, they have it all figured out. But on the inside, we're often feeling this sense of dissatisfaction, like we're not quite enough. And the wildest part? They're probably looking right back at us, thinking the exact same thing about our lives. It's this strange, silent agreement we all make.
The source material we're looking at has a perfect name for this, a deception of distance. And I think that just nails it. From far away, another person's life looks like a perfectly manicured, lush green lawn. But the closer you get, the more you see the weeds and the brown patches. This illusion is what keeps us constantly chasing what other people have instead of watering our own grass.
Okay, so that brings up a huge question. What happens when you actually do get what you want? When you achieve all the things society says should make you happy? Let's look at a pretty staggering real-world example. Let me introduce you to this guy, Somerset Maugham. In his day, he wasn't just a successful writer, he was an absolute superstar.
I mean, seriously, just look at this list. This guy checked every single box of success. He was one of the most famous authors on the planet. He was incredibly rich. He had a gorgeous villa on the French Riviera, a full staff of 11 servants, and he lived a nice long life to 91. By all accounts, he had won the game.
And yet, this is what he said. At 90 years old, he told his nephew this, with tears in his eyes. Just think about that. This wasn't just a bad day. This was the final summary of a life that looked, from the outside, absolutely perfect. This story just stops you in your tracks, doesn't it? If a guy who reached the absolute peak of fame and fortune can feel like his entire life was a disappointment, it forces us to ask, what are we all missing here? And why does our mind keep selling us this idea that more success will lead to more happiness when the proof can be so powerfully the opposite? Well, according to the perspective we're exploring, the answer isn't out there. It's inside our own minds. The problem is the game our mind is designed to play. A game that, by its very rules, you can never, ever win. At the heart of this game is one key player, desire. You can think of it like your mind's built-in more button. The second you get something you wanted, the joy lasts for a moment, and then, poof, your mind moves the goalposts. It immediately projects a new, better future, and you're back to feeling that gap between what you have and what you want. It's a treadmill that's designed to never stop. You know, this isn't some new idea. In fact, there's a beautiful old parable that captures this endless and, frankly, kind of absurd cycle perfectly. So there's this stonecutter, right? He's miserable and wishes he were a rich man. And just like that, he is. But then he sees the king, who has even more power, and thinks, I want to be him. Then as king, the sun bothers him, so he wishes to be the sun. But as the sun, a cloud blocks his light, so he wants to be the cloud. Then a giant rock stops the cloud, so he wishes he was the rock. And finally, as this unmovable rock, he feels himself being chipped away by a simple stonecutter. And he realizes all he wants is to be a stonecutter again. He ends up right back where he started.
Okay, so if the chase is a trap, what's the answer? Do we just give up on everything, go live in a cave, and renounce the world? Well, the path suggested here is actually much more subtle and way more powerful than that.
And here is the catch. This is the mind's master-level trick. You can't just fight desire, because the very act of trying to become desireless is, you guessed it, another desire. It's just a more spiritual-sounding one. The mind is still playing the exact same game, just with a different goal. I absolutely love this quote, of all places from Winnie the Pooh. It's so simple, but so deep. Happiness, contentment, it's like honey. It's always around. But the moment you start frantically searching for it, it seems to disappear. It only shows up when you stop the hunt. And that brings us to the real solution. The way out isn't to fight your ambition or your greed or feel guilty about it. It's simply to understand it. To watch the game your mind is playing, without judgment. When you can just see it clearly for what it is, a funny thing happens. You don't have to push it away. It just loses its grip on you. It dissolves all on its own.
When you start to live from that place of understanding, it completely flips the script on what it means to be a successful person.
Now just let that sink in for a second. Our whole world screams at us to be special, be extraordinary, stand out. But what if the greatest achievement, the real victory, is having the courage to just be okay with being ordinary, to find the profound in the simple?
And this is where the treasure is really buried. It's not in the big trophy moments. It's right here, in the small things we usually rush past on our way to something better. It's the taste of your morning coffee or tea, the simple act of sweeping the floor, just walking outside, talking with a friend, or even just sitting quietly and listening to the birds. That's the good stuff. That's the real wealth.
So, we'll end with this final thought to just sort of chew on. What if this entire time, the happiness we've been running towards, the fulfillment we've been trying to achieve in the future, what if it was never a destination at all? What if it's been right here all along, just waiting for us to stop running and finally be present for it? Thanks so much for joining me.